Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to Sunday Satsang. This is kind of our version of church. As I often say, non-duality is the lazy man's religion. And I'm going to just dive right into the questions because I was just sitting here a few moments before it was time to start. And noticing all of the questions already beginning to come in. So rather than doing a prologue, I'll just start right in with the questions, and hopefully that's okay with you all. I do want to say one thing, though, really quickly. And when I give an answer, in every answer I give, I'm trying to point you to the place from which the answers are coming. Because if I can do that successfully, you'll find that the answer to all questions is there, and you won't need me anymore. And my mission in life is to be put out of a job, right? There is a fundamental, essential, quintessential understanding that once it is gained, all knowledge is available to you. All knowledge. You will be able to immediately grasp and even teach very elaborate and esoteric subjects. You know, not all the necessary details. You're not going to teach car mechanics or something like that, right? But you'll understand that everything we know, everything we experience, everything in the world has at its core an essence, an essential. And that essential is not an idea, it's not a concept. And this is the only reason it's elusive, why we struggle with it. The ultimate knowledge, the quintessential knowledge, the jnana knowledge, is not intellectual or conceptual, it is direct. And it is, in fact, your being. Just that quiet sense of being you have, that sense of existing, that sense that you intuitively know, I exist, that I exist is what gives rise to absolutely everything. Know that, you know it all. Now, with that in mind, let me jump right into the questions and say hello to everyone. Hello, Roberto. Sunny Spain. Sunny here in Seattle, although it hasn't been most of the week. Hello, Robbie in Romania. Hello, dudes and dudettes from tropical Sweden. Merck is in tropical Sweden. I didn't know. Does Sweden have a colony down like in Bali or something? Rosario also in Madrid. Hello, Jay. What days will the IR be on? It will be on Thursdays. That's normally the day I do it. Thursdays, 10 a.m. Pacific time. Yeah. Martin, hello to you. I know Mahasamadhi, for instance, is practiced because of other motivation than a Western suicide, but isn't it all killing oneself in the end? Thanks. Not literally. No, I don't want people drinking the Kool-Aid. It gets kind of popular. People like to use this word ego death, and we're killing the ego and killing the self and that sort of thing. And even like in Zen, you know, if you meet the Buddha on the way along the way, kill him. Can be really these kind of aggressive male metaphors. But you're not killing yourself. You are pruning away from you everything that isn't you. You can't kill you. I can't get rid of you. You can't dispose of you, right? You're the one doing the disposing. But we can dispose of everything that isn't you. And this is the key. Because we have simply identified ourselves with what we're not. We've taken on all sorts of ideas and beliefs and concepts and assumptions, associations. We've taken them on, and believed in them so thoroughly that we act them out in our lives as if they were actually the truth. And so experientially, they become true for you. If I really believe this is who I am, without knowing it, I will literally conform all of my thoughts and feelings and the whole experience to fit within that mold. If that mold is not truly who I am, I will be living a falsity. And you could say that that self you want to kill. But, I use the example of, like, can you kill Mickey Mouse? Or Darth Vader? No, because they don't exist. Now, if I believed they existed, then, that death in the movie would be, it would just tear me apart. But the fact is, you can't kill them because they don't exist. We're only disposing of what is not you, which never was you, and therefore it has no life, it has no sentience, it has no self. It is just a concept believed to be a reality, and in that belief, you create the experience of it as if it were real. That is, you create an external, apparently objective experience, not knowing that it isn't objective at all. It is completely a projection of the mind. So, the Maha Samadhi is not a state. The actual Sahaja Samadhi Sahaja means the natural state. You are simply returning to what you are, being without attachment or identification to anything other than itself. That self cannot be killed. It's like, collects barnacles and stuff on it, but it can't be killed. How can it? You cannot kill what is. You cannot kill being. You cannot turn being into not being. So I much prefer the gentler feminine terms, right, of transformation and nurturing and compassionate growth to the more, the more harsh martial kind of, rules, killing off the enemy and destroying, annihilating the ego and things like that. They have their place, but they serve their purpose. It isn't like that. You can't kill something that never existed. All we do is see that it is a mirage. You don't blow up the oasis in the desert, right? You realize that there's nothing there. It's a mirage. You don't blow the mirage up. You simply come to understand that it is a mirage, and in that seeing, boom, it's over. Even if the evidence still presents itself to your senses, and your mind is still trying to interpret it as if there's something there, you've transcended the mind. You know better. Does that help you, Martin, with that? Thank you for that. Merck was wondering about your thoughts on witnessing. Is there any telltale signs when it is occurring, since you can't really make it happen? OFC, then it would be involvement, right? OFC. Oh. Well, right now, you're hearing my words, right? Witnessing is happening, right? The idea, see, when we become conscious of witnessing, we think, oh, I'm witnessing now, and I wasn't witnessing before. But no, the witnessing's always been there. Consciousness has always been there. But when your attention gets drawn to it, you now see it. And recognizing it as such, you can begin to separate the witnessing that is always happening from what is being witnessed, which we very often, most of the time, get identified with what is being witnessed. And then when we kind of snap out of it and we come back, we think somehow I've moved in and out of witnessing. If there was no witnessing, you wouldn't exist, right? Without consciousness, for all intents and purposes, you don't exist. Nothing exists, right? At least to you, right? Without consciousness, without the witnessing principle. The real understanding is the witnessing is happening all the time. It's the mind that keeps saying, I am going in and out of it. But the I that is going in and out of it is an image in the mind. It's a concept. It's a belief. It's not real. And you can tell because you're witnessing the I going in and out of it. You're completely immersed, absorbed in something, right? Whatever it is you happen to be. Completely overwhelmed with emotions. I'm not witnessing. Well, you're not. Are you simply not witnessing the overwhelm and also witnessing the identification with the overwhelm? Right? Look very closely and you'll see consciousness is always here. Witnessing is always here. And behind the witnessing is the absolutely still, invisible, unknowable witness, irreducible and indivisible. That's you. Where even the witnessing is happening. That's not being witnessed. That is the pure, ultimate, absolute witness, which is not a thing. That is pure, absolute consciousness. So, you can't really make it happen because it's always happening. That's why you can't make something happen, because it's already happening. How do you make something happen that's already happened? Right? It's already going on, right? How do you make your heart beat, right? How do you make your hair grow? It's already growing. Nothing for you to do. Move along, nothing to see here, right? It's already done. Try to take that in, that awakening, enlightenment, being aware of the pure witnessing is not a state you arrive at. It's a recognition that it has been going on the entire time and that you are that. How's that, Mark? You continued. Hello, Ursula, in Madeira Island. I find that sometimes it feels a bit like watching a movie or a simulator. It always is, yeah. You know it can only go one way, you know resistance is futile, and you know that you're really not in it and can't be hurt. Truly come to know that. Okay? Probe that. Puzzle over that. Contemplate it deeply. Don't leave it at the level of a concept. This is really the case. If I really knew with all my heart I can't be hurt, I would never fear. If I knew who I truly was, that I'm not this body, and no matter what happens to this body, it does not happen to me, I would forever lose my fear of death, my fear of pain, my fear of lack, my fear of separation. But it all boils down to the belief and the identification with the belief that I am the body. And that belief and the identification of it are both being witnessed by that which never believed it was the body, never identified with it. That to which it is appearing. The flames on the screen do not touch the screen. Not even the smell of smoke is on the screen. It is completely the screen and completely unaffected by what goes on in front of it. As you come to deepen that, taking it into the heart, not just into the head, you'll find your entire energy system begins to revolve around it. And fear and restlessness and desire all begin to just kind of dissolve out of the system. Because how could I possibly want something that I already have? Does that work for you, Mark? Good. Hello, Eliza on the East Coast. Hello, Karen. Hello. Can you give me some tips for motivation? I'm good at procrastination. Well, the first one I'll give you is right. You're not a horse. Don't whip yourself, right? And don't beat yourself up. Instead, what I always recommend is become curious, right? Why is it I don't want to do this? Right? Now, it could be that there's something going on in your nervous system that feels doing it would create some kind of danger, and so it's resisting it, right? It could be that you don't really want to do it, right? In which case, you have a choice, right? If you really know, God, I don't really want to do it, but I feel like I have to. Right? If you really have to, and you know it, you can just do it, right? Just do it. You don't have to like it, right? You don't have to enjoy it, right? Just do it. Most of the time, people talk about procrastination. It's things that they want to do, but are putting it off for some reason. Going to the gym, eating better, stopping smoking, or any of the things that we want to do to improve ourselves. So you're not good at procrastination. It's not a personal problem, right? It's an energetic conflict. There's one part that wants to do this and another part that doesn't, right? And they both have their good reasons. This is what inner reconciliation is all about. You sit in the middle and you recognize the desire and the resistance to the desire, but you don't take sides. Just by they say, I'm good at procrastination. I can hear in your words, you want to get rid of the procrastination. But your nervous system's holding on to it because it believes the procrastination is protecting you from something. Now become curious about that. Don't just think of it as something I've got to get rid of. I've got to get rid of this procrastination and, get on and do that thing that I'm trying to do. Instead, use everything that comes up as an opportunity for self-discovery, an opportunity to come to know yourself and know how the nervous system works. When you understand how this works, you become its master. You can't become its master by trying to force it to be and do things that it doesn't want to do. You can't do it. You can't make the cat bark, right? No matter how hard you try. You have to work within the context of what it is. And so within every individual, every attempt to progress or evolve and grow, is going to have some kind of a resistance to it, because every desire to grow inevitably brings out a change, a transformation to the environment. Every time the environment is going to change, the nervous system says, is this a good idea? I prefer it not to change. I'm safe now. Why rock the boat? And remember, this aspect of you is very primitive. It's not interested in growth. It's not interested in progress. It's not interested in happiness or love or any of that. It is only interested in safety. It is a one-trick pony, right? That's all it cares about. And so it measures and assesses everything from the perspective of safety. You can't fight it. It's inherent in the nature of all beings. So you have to learn to work with it. You have to reconcile with it, right? So the step out of, I really want to do this, right? And I'm a problem. I'm procrastinating. That's why I can't do it. Throw that out. Throw out the word procrastination. Instead, take this position in the middle. There's a desire to do something and there's a resistance to doing it. And don't take sides. And watch what happens. Okay, there's a desire there and there's a resistance to that desire. I want the desire, but I know that I can't fight. If my nervous system thinks it's a problem, I'm not going to be able to fight it. So, okay, I'm not going to fight it. I'm just going to say, okay, I want this. You guys work it out as best you can. I mean, hopefully, even hearing me talk like this and inviting you into that space, there's a sense of relief, right? Because procrastination is just another pejorative to blame you for what isn't your problem, what isn't your fault. Ignorance is our fault. We don't really understand how this whole thing works. So how's that for you, Karen? Is that a tip? A good tip? Suzanne, hello and namaste. Are there powerful places in the world? Yes, many of them. You want to know the one that's the most powerful? You, where you are right now. Because you actually have all the power. The power of places is derived by our belief in their power. So where does the power actually reside? In that book, Carlos Castaneda, Don Juan, The Teachings of Don Juan, which was all made up, by the way, but it was good. It was still good. It would have been fine as a fiction book, but he presented it as a nonfiction book, and therefore kind of got himself discredited. But but it was still very good. And he was out with Don Juan in the, and they came to this spot to rest for a while, and he said, "Okay, I want you to go sit in your power spot." And so Carlos Castaneda would walk around and he'd feel something, he'd sit down in this spot, and Don Juan would go, "Nope, that's not it." And he'd get up, every place he tried, Don Juan would say, "Nope, that's not it." And so he says, "Okay, show me your power spot." And Don Juan just sits down. He says, "Well, that's just anywhere. Why is that your power spot?" He says, "Wherever I am is my power spot." You go to a powerful place, an energy vortex or a special temple or a piece of art. I felt that way standing in front of the Mona Lisa, right? Or some artifact in a museum. Or I felt that way in front of Dali pictures in the Dali Museum. What really makes it powerful? You. This is the essential ignorance. We take our power, the infinite power of being, and we project it on what is only an image on a screen. We give our power to that. You are the power place. Notice how difficult, how strange that sounds to your mind, because the mind is searching for power out there. It cannot acknowledge that you are the power, because the mind isn't the power, by the way. The mind is just usually a chatty little thing, and at best it's a useful tool for self-expression, but it's not the self. Power is the self. Power can only derive from what is, right? It can't derive from what is not. This is the great illusion. The world is a projection. The world is a concept. Every attribute of the world is you. Everything you see and experience, none of those qualities, attributes, belong to the object you're looking at. They belong to you. It is all the reflection of consciousness. Every quality you experience, no matter what it is in terms of your senses, taste, touch, smell, sound, or sight, is all the self-modulation of consciousness. We have simply ignorantly believed that what we are experiencing is simply the knowingness of consciousness is an objective world. It appears to be out there, but in fact it's in here. It is within you. Everything is appearing right here, right now, and that right here and right now is you. You are the powerful place. Suzanne, welcome back home. Welcome to your power spot, which is right where you're sitting right now. Oh, please take that in, everyone. And you'll never go searching for some special place or do a pilgrimage. That's all well and good. I visited beautiful places and temples and things like that. They're wonderful to experience. But you're the real power source. You are the source. David and Elaine, hi GP and everyone. Love and greetings from us both. Very sunny southeast England. So good to hear it. Although thankfully not the extremes of temperatures you've been experiencing. Not this week. Shoop. It was back down to normal Seattle temperatures, which was great. 1920 by your Celsius. Great. So glad to see you guys. The familiar friendly faces every Sunday. Lola, hello G, and all. Oops. Jumped ahead on me. Hold on. There you are. Is it possible to heal oneself only by thoughts? Thank you. Okay. I'm going to answer. In my opinion, right? I always have to point this out. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a financial consultant. I have no letters after my name. I have no degrees. I'm not an etymologist. I'm not a virologist. I'm not even a veterinarian, right? I have no letters after my name. Right? So everything I say is simply my opinion, coming from my experience. Now, with that said, is it possible to heal oneself only by thoughts? The truth is, as I see it, it is only thought that heals. Thought creates the illness, thought heals the illness. Every illness is a product of thought, and therefore it is only thought that heals it. And I say, well, I gave you the medicine. No, you took the thought of medicine. Medicine which has been imbued with the face of literally millions of people, thousands of people in the creation of it, millions within the general belief in an external world where objects possess a particular power, and then the billions of people who believe it, all stemming from this belief that the material universe is real and not a product of mind. The fact of the matter is, your body is a thought. The universe is a thought in the mind of God. And what does that make you? I'll let you choose that one. Unchew that for yourself. Now, this doesn't mean I would say, as some who see it this way do, that means you shouldn't go to doctors, you shouldn't ever take medicine, you shouldn't believe in, do any of that kind of stuff. You shouldn't take care of anything like that. I'm not an extremist that way. We have to walk to the degree that we understand the light. But I'm giving you now the general principle. You've asked me, is it possible? It not only is possible, it in fact is the only way it actually works. I don't care what kind of a super deluxe medicine or miracle cure it is. It works because we believe it works. And for no other reason. It's all placebo. Now, why in the world, they always expect a placebo effect. Why in the world aren't placebos being studied? Well, there are some noetic sciences and Bruce Lipton, and there are some people who have looked at those kinds of things and come to a very different conclusion about the nature of things. Most of them, though, are still laboring on the idea that there is an externally existent physical universe that has a subtle interchange with mind and the human, so that we influence the DNA, which then influences the cascade of things. The non-dual consciousness-only model says, no, there is no matter. There is no material universe. That is a concept. It is an idea projected onto consciousness. And therefore, everything is a thought. Every experience is a thought. We get sick because of thoughts. We get well because of thoughts. Sickness and wellness themselves are thoughts. Beingness itself can never be sick. It can't be depressed. It can't be lonely. It can't be stupid. It has no limits. It has no boundaries. The universe as we know it is a thought. Because the infinite mind of God, if you will, or the Buddha mind, doesn't have any limits on it. It isn't in a universe. You can make universe upon universe upon universe upon universe. That's the general principle, which I believe is imposing itself more, asserting itself more thoroughly over humanity. Because when I was a kid, the idea of mind even influencing health was crazy. I mean, there was some of it. There was the New Thought churches going back to the beginning of the 20th century, the end of the 19th century actually. It's been known in all sorts of places for years. It's part of the yogic powers and things like that. But the underlying, and it's now beginning to appear, but the underlying notion of an external existence, the belief in external existence, has not yet been fully challenged, except in a few little pockets of light, like here. Matter of fact, it is the third of the bodhisattva practices given by the Buddha. It is the perceiving the non-existence of external existence. If you ponder that, what will happen is the desire simply for healing, which is important, will get transcended and subsumed into the deeper, more powerful desire to understand the nature of being itself. To understand, well, how is it possible? Where is the line? Is there a line? Right? What is the true nature of being? And if any kind of healing can take place, then, however insignificant, it means all of it can take place. And that physics is a habit, not a truth. Again, I don't have any PhDs. Go ahead, you can yell at me, call me a pseudoscientist. So, fine. Called worse. So, I hope that answers it for you, Lola, and points you, hopefully, to a deeper pondering. Right? Obviously, if when things are wrong in our life, we want them to be improved. But more important than an improvement to circumstance is to come to an understanding of who you really are, because that's eternal. The improving of a circumstance is temporary. All circumstances come and go. It'll be good for a while, and it'll be bad for a while, it'll be good for a while. That is just the way life works, and there's no getting around it. That is Shiva's wheel. But to begin to imbibe these words that I'm telling you is to step into the eternal truth, to build for eternity. Not just a better human life, but to transcend it into the divine life that is your real birthright, that is your real nature. So, hopefully that works. Thank you. Ava, hello Ava. Beautiful time of Satsang. Yes, indeed. GB, hello G. GB, meet GP. And everyone watching, big hello from London, from Georgia. London from Georgia. Georgia in the US, Georgia in former Soviet Union. You're from there, from Georgia. Oh, Georgia, that's the name. Sorry. Sorry. GB. Yeah, Georgia. Sorry. Andy BB. IGP, I've just completed the Just Allow It course, and it has had a deep effect on me. Thank you so much. I struggle a little with the path of allowing, as it seems to contradict the importance of earnestness, as stressed by Nisargadatta and Ramana Maharshi. How do I reconcile just allowing with that inner drive to know the truth? Well, wasn't the practice of allowing a manifestation of that inner drive to know the truth? The earnestness? If you did the course, you said I just completed it. You've actually gone through all 5 sections, and they're not short, right? And I do tell people to take their time. Does that not express, testify to your earnestness, to your sincerity? Now that said, if you've listened to any of my inner reconciliation videos I've just released, the allowing or inviting, as I've called it, is a part of it. The next part is in inquiry. And the reason I put it like that is because for most people, before you can really do the self-inquiry, as laid out by Nisargadatta and Ramana Maharshi, which I'm a great proponent of, by the way. Matter of fact, that's what I'm doing right now, is exactly what they taught. What I found is that our Western minds being so goal-oriented that we really can't approach inquiry with the same spirit, the same energy, the same sense of intense interest, right? because there's this, it's just kind of been programmed into all of us, this kind of this goal orientation to get something. What I found, in order to be able to effectively do the inquiry, we first have to be able to be just present with what you're feeling. If I'm arguing with what I'm feeling, if I don't like what I'm feeling, or I want my life to be different, and there's this inner conflict going on, I'm inevitably going to turn self-inquiry into some therapeutic medicinal remedy for the discontent, right? And some can do that. Some can move through that and get the inquiry. I found that a very gentle way to bring people to it is that if I'm first able to simply be present with whatever comes up, and stuff does come up, I get to that place where I can make the inquiry of who am I, but it's no longer dominated by the mind trying to find yet another object to identify with. A better object, for sure, a spiritual object, the enlightened being or something like that, but yet another mental object. And that's what the mind wants to do. The spiritual path for the mind is another object, something I'm going to attain, another thing, another feather in my cap, right? So I approached it and I called it allowing. What it is meditation. This is meditation in its pure form. That is meditation without a goal, right? Getting people out of being so goal-oriented to just be present and become curious. When that happens, there's a stillness, there's an equanimity begins to emerge in the system, which you said had a deep effect on you, so you've experienced it. So now you can begin to turn towards that which is aware even of the effect it had on you. If you're no longer engaged with the thoughts can come and go. You allow them to come and go. You're in a much better position to put your attention on the pure witnessing itself, and to go and to begin to move past and transcend the subtler ideas, the subtler concepts in the mind. And notice the way how the mind is constantly trying to reproduce a new version of you, a new form of ego. The moment one gets dissolved, it wants to produce another one. It's constantly popping up. And yes, they're probably going to be better, but none of them are going to be you. And so at some point you can just let that all happen. It's no longer a problem. And the attention goes deeper and deeper and deeper to try to see what can't actually be seen. And at some point you simply go beyond the mind completely. And there's just the sense, I am. That's it. That's all there is to me. I am. I'm nothing in particular. I'm no form. I'm no location. I'm no color. I'm no gender. I have no beliefs. All of that is happening on the screen. I am watching the screen. And then the question, well, who is that? Who am I really? This witness. Because even when I use the word the pure witness, it becomes a concept, doesn't it? We want to go beyond even that to the true awakening. I am that. Does that help you, Andy? Sue McIntosh. Hi, GP. I feel so stressed in South Africa as unrest has ripped the country apart and many thousands have lost their jobs and have no food. Please advise how to stay calm. Everybody's future is uncertain now. I take a little sip of my iced coffee. This is, without a doubt, the most trying time in human history. Yes, there have been trying times. There have been, civilizations collapsing, barbarism, chaos. But it's been localized. Never has it been the entire world, to the point where there's actually nowhere to run. We've run out of moves. And everybody is feeling the uncertainty at this point. That's why some cling to fundamentalism, you know, Jesus is going to come, or aliens or somebody, and rescue me. We're going to blame those guys, we're going to blame the Muslims or the Mexicans or the blacks, or we're going to blame the white supremacists. We're going to imagine all sorts of things. You know, the conspiracy theorists, which is a lot of emotional overhead on top of truth. I mean, there's truth there, and then there's a distortion because of the intense fear that is there. But yeah, we don't trust the institutions. The institutions have all fallen apart. And you can tell when institutions fall apart because they try to maintain themselves through control. We have the same problem here in the US. The media doesn't report it, right? There are entire cities have been devastated. I mean, this is a universal thing that is going on. There's no political solution to it. There's no cultural solution to it, as far as I see. I see only a spiritual solution to it. We want to save the world, but you have to save yourself first, right? If the self that's doing helping needs self-help, what good is it going to do? If the blind are leading the blind, both are going to fall into the ditch, right? How do we become unblind? All right, to stay calm, let's just be very, very practical about it. To stay calm, right, simply means to be present with whatever is going on inside the body without trying to change it. Calmness is not a state you get to. Calmness, the reality of calmness, is that it is the stillness of the self, which, if adhered to and abided in, will assert itself over the nervous system and bring the manifestation of itself into alignment with that. You won't have to try to make the body calm. Now, it doesn't hurt to meditate, to make yourself breathe, right? To exercise, to use the body to help the energy move through it. To become wise about the kinds of the kinds of decisions we make, how they impact others. All of that is good. But the essence of it is we have to come to see that this has to happen. This is the process by which humanity outgrows the ego-centered sense of self. This is how consciousness wakes itself up. You know, if it's a dream, if we're having a really nice dream and it's really fun, and you know, when you wake up, oh no, let me go back to sleep. But when you're having a nightmare, being woken up is the biggest blessing you can have. And humanity is going through a shared nightmare now. And it's universal. Okay? And it's, you know, it's not just the people who don't have jobs and are struggling for food. It's the extremely wealthy who are hoarding it all. You think they're happy? These guys are miserable. Their whole lives are distorted. This is universal. This is the universal misery that is going on. And so I point everybody back to themselves, the real power center. Nothing can thwart the truth. Okay? But I don't mean just the truth, right? The person's trying to prove that their view of what's happening is the right view. It might be. Well, it might be close. There's no such thing as a right view, because all views are a view. They're a perspective. The real question is, how do we become harmonious? How do we become the only thing that can possibly bring peace to the world? And that is a peaceful soul. peaceful soul that has no conflict with anyone, who has no argument with anyone. Not because they say everything is equally okay, because it's obviously not. For some people to have extraordinary wealth and other people to be starving, that's not okay, right? But if we come to understand that both are suffering from an underlying belief system, right? That there's no real perpetrator, there's no real evil doer, that are systems of thought that have become so ingrained in human consciousness that there's a tacit agreement with them. Nobody questions them. This is the deep message, the message of salvation that non-duality brings. To look beyond the people to the systems of thought. If you see the systems of thought, you can eradicate them from you. From that place, you'll understand things as they are. And it is the only place that has a chance of ushering in a completely different way of being. Because we obviously don't want to just replace what we have with something else that in 10, 20, 30, 100 years is going to go through exactly the same thing. Why do we don't want to do that? This is the end of time. This is the end of an epoch. And it really is a time for humanity to wake up as a whole. But humanity does not wake up as a whole, as a group. We don't get together and all wake up. Humanity wakes up as a whole because individuals are. So don't underestimate the power of your awakening. The best thing you can do for humanity is wake up. Wake up to the dream. Wake up that it is a dream, to the illusion. And in so doing, you become a catalyst. You become a light. Right? And don't hide your light under a bushel, but put it up on a hill where it can be seen. Because it transcends. People can sense it. It's not just a matter of opinion. I'm not just sitting here spouting my opinions to you. If I was, I doubt if anybody'd be here. Right? Nobody. It's just another opinion. Right? I'm presenting that which is beyond opinion. But notice that it's not a dogma. It's not a particular point of view I'm arguing for. Right? It is essentially a pointing back to something that is beyond all opinions, and that is the direct experience of yourself, the truth that is you, the truth that you and you alone can realize and make manifest. So recognize that and use the difficulties of the world, the adversity in the world, as an invitation to go deeper than you've ever gone before, until you've gone all the way. You've been digging that well and you finally hit the water. Right? So I hope that helps you, Sue. I do have to say, it just kind of touches me every single day when I hear about things going on, and then I'll go someplace like Facebook and I'll just see just nothing but one opinion after another being thrown out there, and thinking they're right, even arguing for a position I do think is better, but the spirit behind it. Right? Blessed are the peacemakers. The peacemaker is the one who does not take sides, who sits at the place of no position whatsoever, to provide the space by which the highest possible in the moment can emerge. That is what we strive for. Thank you, Sue. Annette Rockstar. Hello, Satsang family. Does the Schumann resonance and binaural sounds work and have a positive effect on body and mind? Well, I'll tell you in two ways. I've used some of that stuff. I've used some different, solfeggio frequencies and binaural beats. It does have an effect on the body for sure. You can't say yes. They call it pseudoscience because there isn't sufficient quote unquote scientific evidence that it works, and so it's denied. When I was doing some research in it to find if there was any kind of neurological evidence for it. I found that pretty much every source that I found that described, they all came from one place. And they even used the same language and stuff. So I had to conclude that, people believe it. And I used it. I didn't get much effect out of it. I know people who swear by it. So if it does for you, then use it. But let me take the opportunity, like I talked before about healing, to point you to a place beyond, right? Because all power belongs to you, all of it. If you believe that these things will have an effect, they will have an effect. Now, I'll use them working within the context of somebody's belief. Because if they believe it's an effect, I'll put it into a meditation. It will have the effect that they want it to have, right? Which will prepare the ground for them going beyond any kind of external remedy for any circumstance. I don't have a problem with that. Like, be criticized for that. That's not yes, it is. When Swami Rama, I don't know if you know who he was. He's the founder of the East-West bookstores and the Himalayan Institute. Was actually raised by a Himalayan master up in the Himalayas. He was a very famous yogi. He was a yogi that was, when the biofeedback machines came out, they started testing all sorts of stuff. The first opportunity they had for testing brainwave patterns and things like that. And he was one of the yogis they asked to test on. And he would play with them. He gave himself a cancer. Then he moved it. Then he took it away. He had that kind of mastery over the body. When the tests were all done, he bought like 6 of the biofeedback machines to bring back with him, and he got criticized. What? That's not meditation. That's cheating. He says, I can't believe you guys. Right? You spend all this money on time building this technology to blow each other up, and I want to use it to help humanity, and you're criticizing me. I'll use technology if it helps, right? But I'm always looking for the opportunity, which I always take on Satsang, because this is the format. Here, the only thing I'll offer at Satsang is the pure, undiluted truth. And I will describe all the different levels at which I'll present it. But ultimately, here's the truth. You and you alone are the power. If I think this is going to work, it'll work. My belief is the power. The course I teach, your 4 amazing powers of creation, it is your attention, your belief, your identification, and your self-awareness, discrimination, the capacity to tell. Those create your experience. They don't create reality. They say, you're creating your own reality. No, reality is what is. You cannot create it. You don't create 2 + 2 = 4. It just is, okay? You can distort it. You can misunderstand it. You can do calculations and get it wrong, but you can't change what is. So you do not create reality. You create your experience of it. And in the creation of the experience of it, you are the absolute authority. What you believe to be true will be true for your experience. It will shape everything. That means nothing is true in and of itself. Nothing. It's all you. Consider that. Just ponder that for a moment. The power that is in that. You're free. There is nothing out there binding you except you. Find out who you are. And then that power will be wielded by a God and not by just some ego trying to get what it wants. So there you have it. And in the meantime, I'll continue to put, do pieces of music in 432 hertz or 174 and things like that. Why not? Just like the biofeedback machines of Swami Rama. Crispin, AGP, thank you so much for the latest videos. You mentioned that the nervous system can trigger me on purpose, just to see how I react. I thought the nervous system is just a reacting machine. Yes, it is. It's reacting to you disidentifying with it. It's part of the programming. Programmed to keep the identification in place. It's the very substance of it. Without your identification, this entire thing collapses, right? So remember, it's a functioning. It's not an entity, right? It's not. There's not a sentient being there going, oh, there's a button. Let me push that. It's not like that, right? It's just you're going to experience in the process of truly disidentifying, you're going to experience resistance. And that resistance is going to trigger old feelings, old memories, old experiences, because it is simply, it's been thrown out of equilibrium and it's trying to reestablish the equilibrium. Your job is to stay out of equilibrium long enough that it reestablishes a new equilibrium at a higher level. It's going to want to always go back to where it was. The gyroscope is always going to want to stand back up again. Right? So you have to destabilize it long enough that the reprogramming takes place. So I put it in the terms that it'll push your buttons, right? Well, it's pushing its own buttons, right? The truth is you don't have any buttons. You are the original innocence, the unconditioned self. You don't have any buttons, so you cannot be pushed. If you see that, you'll watch the fireworks going off, sometimes a tsunami of emotion, and you'll watch it in just total peace and equanimity. You'll let it move through you. I hope that answers it for you. Hello, Jonas. Good to see you. Milo. I miss your prologues. Miss them when they aren't there. Well, thank you. I gave a little one today, just a little one. Alina Maria, hello to you, and to Marty, to Steffi, my buddy in Germany. Namaskaram, G and all. No question for me, just wanted to say hi and send some love. Thank you. Thank you, dear girl. Roberto, GP, as soon as I start meditating, listening to you, to Muji, I start yawning. Is that normal? Absolutely. Not that I get bored, since it's just a few minutes after the meditation or satsang has started. Yeah, perfectly normal. That's one of the buttons being pushed. It's just kind of it can be simply an energy release, right? Because now that it's becoming a regular, habitual, listening to me and Muji and meditating, as it becomes habitual, shifts take place in the energy, in the patterning, right? It's no longer something you have to make yourself do. You decide you're going to meditate, and the body automatically begins to kind of move into that state. So you're not bored. So it can be just a yawn of an energy release, or it can be a little bit of resistance there. Don't pay any attention to it. Don't try to make anything out of it. Don't make it into a problem, right? If you find yourself 10 minutes in and falling sound asleep, then you'll know it's resistance for sure. But it's just a yawn, that's fine. Don't even make it into, is this something I should think about? No, it's not. It's not something you should concern yourself with. So, great. Mila, do you have any advice when someone is nihilistic or has a negative attitude in general? The nihilistic or negative attitude is a protective mechanism developed over time. I'm going to get me before you get me, kind of a thing. It's very, very natural. If we've had circumstances in our childhood when our desires and our needs have been thwarted consistently. And it happens to a lot of us. I mean, it certainly happened to me. I mean, there was just nothing I wanted that was approved of. Anything that I wanted was not approved of. It was always what they wanted, right? And which created just, an intense inner conflict for myself. But what happens is, and it happened to me, is you kind of just develop this attitude, well, nothing really matters. It's an attempt to suppress desire, because it's better to just try to not feel the desire or not feel the deprivation of a need than to feel it and can't get it. Right? That's hell. Right? A desire that can never be fulfilled. And that's what it feels like. I can never have this. Right? And sometimes it even takes the form of an unconscious vow. I will never have this. I will not ever allow myself to have that. And you can become very cynical, very nihilistic. I did, to the point at 19 years old, my very best friend told me to go away. I couldn't stand being with me. Nobody could stand being with me. I was so dark. I was so pessimistic. I saw the dark cloud in around every silver lining. There were no silver linings. I was just really dark. Just almost drove me to kind of off myself. There was just nothing to live for, because I had become so compressed that even allowing a desire to arise was so painful that I simply couldn't let it happen. Now, that doesn't mean you should be getting every desire, but it's our relationship with the desire, it's part of life. There's no way around it. You can't live without desires arising. Right? They're not a problem unless you become very attached to them or very averse to them. And so somebody, let me see if I find it again. Somebody who is nihilistic or just really negative, everything is horrible, everything is dark, they're protecting themselves. They're protecting themselves from the pain of the underlying belief that I cannot have what I want and I will not get my needs met. That's what it is. And so you can have just this enormous amount of compassion with it. Don't argue with them, because it's a waste of time. And nihilism is actually even darker. Life has absolutely no meaning, right? You didn't exist before you were born. Life is just meaningless misery, and then you die. And that is the materialistic view. That is the materialistic view. And so it becomes hedonistic. I get whatever I can get, right? Or just fuck it, who cares? Nothing matters. And coming face to face with that kind of meaninglessness is extremely powerful. I mean, those of you who are familiar with Terence McKenna, in one of his mushroom trips, that's what happened. He was confronted by this utter meaninglessness, his own life, his own work. I mean, his theory, the time wave theory, which had been, completely, it was just complete, it was nonsense, basically, right? Suddenly, it was all meaning. He couldn't deal with it, and he never did a journey after that, and got very sick and then died. I mean, it really killed him. He didn't know how to deal with this, because for him, meaning was all being derived from the intellect, being extremely smart and well-read and articulate. I mean, poetically articulate, right? So it can really just drive one right off the edge. The non-duality is very often accused of this nihilism, right? There's no self. Buddha was accused of nihilism. There is no self. What he meant is that there is no self in form. That what we perceive as an object doesn't have a self. It is a momentary functioning. But he never denied the reality of being, of self-conscious awareness, which he called Buddha nature, the true being that was simply beyond all the opposites. To call it a self, it isn't. I mean, that is how Ramana Maharshi refers to it. That's how in those traditions it is. And when understood correctly, it is the self that is not a self. It is beyond all form and all definition. It is what is, which can never be put into any kind of concrete form, because every concrete form is always some kind of aggregate, right? So I'm not sure how I got off on all of that, but if you are the one who is feeling nihilistic or negative, recognize that what it is a sense of disempowerment. You're protecting yourself from feeling the brunt of the underlying assumption that life is meaningless, if it's nihilistic, or at least I'm stuck, I'm limited, and I can't get my needs met. And certainly not my desires. Desires shouldn't be had, they're sinful, all sorts of ways of trying to compensate for that underlying belief that that I am really not free to fulfill myself. Because it isn't really about getting what you want, it's about the freedom of self-expression, right, which we all need. Right? That's the whole reason the human form exists, is for that purpose. So I guess that would be my advice. I hope that's enough. If you're talking about dealing with it in somebody else, you might not be able to. Be a friend, listen. Perhaps there's an opening to suggest an alternative. I doubt very highly if they'd be interested in hearing what I just had to say about it. but maybe there's a recognition that this came from a deep. It's not natural for us to be pessimistic. It's natural for us to be happy. So it took a lot of trauma to force us out of our nature of happiness and into this curmudgeon-like character who just mutters and thinks everything is horrible. It's like Eeyore, right? It's like, oh, it's just gonna be bad again. So, hopefully that helps you there, Milo. Faith, hello my Sheikh, spiritual tribe, please pray for me that things get easier inside and outside. I love you. I love you too, Faith. And yes, you always have my prayers. And everyone else here. Indeed, everyone else here. Playan, greetings and salutations from sunny Sweden. Hello, Playan. Hope I'm saying that right. Oh, damn, unfortunately I work on Thursday. Ah, okay. Well, the replays will be there, of course, and I will be doing some other stuff during the week. There'll be some other extra stuff, so if you can participate. Anyway, hello, Lisa Berry in Canada, my producer and friend. Juliana, hi everyone. I just wanted to say that babies and children are so pure, so close to the divine. We can learn from them so much, and it's precious to spend time with these little individuals. Yes, I know. Not yesterday, a week ago, I took my granddaughter out for the day. And we just kind of hung out. We went to the bookstore and read books. We had lunch. We went to the park and buzzed around on scooters. And yeah, they're pure, just purely themselves. That's why Christ said, in order to enter the kingdom of heaven, you must become as a little child. Because there's pure innocence. It's pure, unaffected. Become as the little child, sinless. Right? He's not pointing to original sin for sure. He was pointing to what exudes from them is the natural state. It's not always happy, and buzzing and wonderful. Sometimes it's crying and demanding, but it's pure. It's purely them. There's no affectation. They're not pretending to be something. They're not censoring, right? I'm very happy to see that going on 5 years old now, there's still not the censoring going on, right? My son does a very good job as a father. She has a lot of freedom to just simply be who she is, which is all you can do. I mean, the censoring is going to happen. School does it. Some conditioning culturation has to take place. We're just trying to provide the environment in which that acceptance can be as much as it can be. Of course, as grandpa, I've got greater leeway. Dad and mom have to set more rules than grandpa does, which is great. But I get to be, I'm just buzzing around on the scooter and we're singing songs, right? Baby shark, do, 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 do. Or Frozen for the 1000th time. And I get to just be a little kid again, just reading the books and sitting in the bookstore on the floor, right? It's great. So yes, you're absolutely right. We learn from them. And remember, what little children represent to us as adults is your original innocence that's still there. That child is still there in all of us. It was never really lost. And by the child, I don't mean the form, the body, the size. Nobody would want to stay a child forever. But I mean that purity, that sense of uncensored self-expression, the unapologetically myself, and not stuck in any self, not so identified something that you don't become something else. Watch how children play and go from one character to another. They don't have that firm sense of identity. That comes later. It's very, very flexible. And so when you notice that flexibility, you're touching on the Buddha, because the Buddha is the no self, the no position that is simply flowing through one manifestation, through one self after another. And so the pure infinite self and no self are the same. So thank you for that, Juliana. It's very true. Or Juliana. Facebook user, hello. Is there such a thing like super learning or learning in trance or lucid dreams? I heard that people have a kind of double life in lucid dreams and what we call reality. Well, we are all way more capable than we think we are. What is super learning? But in some instance, some limitation, which are all beliefs, as peeled away, in a particular aspect of somebody's life, and suddenly they excel. I mean, how would you explain Mozart, writing his first concerto at 3? I mean, 3. Right? Most of us are still, right? And he's already playing, right? I mean, he's 8. He's giving concerts all over Europe. This incredible phenomena. I think at 8 or 9 he wrote his first opera. Now those early pieces aren't the ones we remember him for because they were still very mature. But how do you explain a phenomenon like that? Oh, he's a genius. Something in the brain. Oh, nonsense, right? Take off all the limits and recognize that you are the source of all knowledge. Therefore, there's nothing for you to learn, but everything in the universe is free to move through you and express through you in wisdom, intelligence, and creativity. You don't gain those things, you manifest those things. Now, people seeing themselves as knowledge here, me here, my capacity to get that knowledge, which is the illusion. It's not really true. The knowledge comes from you. It doesn't come to you. Everything comes from you. You are the source. You are Shiva being. You are the Buddha. You are the I am. You are God. Right? It all is coming from you, but you've so identified with the body that you don't know who you are. You don't realize that you are the creator of the universe. Not the person, but you, but the reality of you. But this creation is not an act of will. It is just the spontaneous arising, like a Mozart. It wasn't an act of will. He didn't decide he was going to do it. It just happened. The stuff just flew out of him. Now, because we've identified with the body, I've identified with this particular form. I see myself as being this. With identification with the form comes the circumscribing of myself, my abilities. I become, in my imagination, my belief, and therefore in my experience, a limited being. And now knowledge becomes something out there I try to get. Right? And I find that based on my particular container, my little world that I myself have created, some things I will learn easily, some things I won't learn easily. All coming from my identification. The truth of the matter, it's all coming from you, but you don't know it. You think it's coming from out there. And so we devise things like trance learning or super learning and the brain entrainment stuff and lucid dreams and the like, as a way to try to break down a barrier between this knowledge and yourself that you yourself made but don't know it. You made the gap, and now you're trying to invent ways of building a bridge over that gap. And some joker like me comes along and says, guess what? There is no gap. It doesn't exist, right? You made it up. Believing in it makes you experience it. And so now I believe in trance learning. I'll practice trance learning. And if my belief is strong enough, I will actually start learning things quicker. And I'll believe it's because the trance learning, there's some magic power in it. But all it means is it gave me permission to believe I had access to something I had access to the whole time. I said that very, very quickly. I hope you followed it. But it all comes down to you. And again, the reason we want lucid dreaming and these trance dreams is we think there's some special knowledge out there that's worth getting. There isn't. All knowledge is relative. All knowledge, all teaching is without a self. As Buddha says, there's no self in persons, no self in things, and no self in teaching. No self in the Dharma, no self in Buddhism. He even dismantled his own teachings, right? There is no truth in knowledge. It's all relative, right? And therefore impermanent and fluctuating. It shifts with perception. Right? The only knowledge worth having is the knowledge of yourself, which is a not ahead knowledge. It's the direct experience of yourself, which, if you look, you're experiencing all the time. You're always here, are you not? Now simply put aside everything that is not you, put your attention into that place that is just the pure sense of I am, including the idea that the I am got confined to a body, and that I am will simply explode into the infinite that it is. And you'll find that you are the Brahma self. You are Satchidananda. Hopefully that helps you there, Facebook user. Hello, no one special. I found that witnessing is revealed by realizing I am not the doer, only the watcher. Yes, it's a very deep realization that there is no doer at all. There's simply something is happening. Is there a doer to my hair growing? Is there a doer to my food digesting? Is somebody doing that? Is there a doer to thinking? Is there a doer to any action? We believe there is, and this is the self that gets projected upon the external world as if it were functioning on its own. There is no doer at all. And yes, you're seeing that when you see that, you can't help but recognize that you're simply watching. And that's not even a doing. You're not even doing that. It's just happening. Effortlessly, constantly. Consciousness is not something that is done. Witnessing is not something that is done. It just happens. It just is, and nobody's doing it. But that nobody who's doing it is you. The nobody who's not doing it. Because it is a manifestation, an emanation of your true self. It is not the self doing something. It is the self, it is the knowingness of the self. Lisa Berry, the world is a concept. I way prefer this over the world as a video game. Yes, yes. Because in the idea that the world is like a hologram, we're in a matrix, and I've heard people talk about that. There's still the sense of there being a world outside of consciousness. That it's a matrix. Okay, great. Well, then what are you? What are you? They'll say it's all happening in the brain, but the brain is part of this world, right? Okay, so what does the world, this external reality, look like if all I'm seeing, what's happening? Are we running into each other on the street and not know it? Bumping into each other in, like bum cars, right? Those ideas, people just don't take them far enough. The world is a concept. You walk through your own mind. Everything you experience is is your belief about things, never the thing. Matter of fact, there are no things. There are only our beliefs. And those beliefs manifest as our experience. We call that experience the world, but it isn't. There is no world. We're going all the way today. Hendrik, hi from Lake Constance, hello to you. Truth Loops, hello to you. Hello, beautiful silent one. Pink Space, hey Pink Space. J Deep Sen, Namaste G. Want to understand the connection between awareness and attention. Is attention an attribute of awareness or of mind? Everything is an attribute of awareness. Everything. It can't exist independently of it. If there was no awareness, could there be attention? Think of attention as a flashlight, right? In an infinite universe, attention. But the thing about attention is that it doesn't actually see something, it creates. Attention creates what is seen. It is the manifestation of the seeing. Attention is the focus of perception, the focus of knowingness, and that focus of knowingness creates the universe. The universe and its knowing are one. It's not something that you know. There's nothing but the knowingness. Right? The substance of the thing is the knowing of the thing, and without the knowing there is no thing. Boy, I'm kind of going all the way today, aren't I? So the connection between awareness and attention, ultimately, attention is simply awareness known. It is the knowingness of awareness, and that knowingness produces the universe. But how do you separate the knowingness from awareness? You can't. The knowingness without awareness would there'd be nothing known. There would be no knowing at all. So it all comes down to the pure absolute awareness. That is what is. Everything else is a manifestation of it. So even the knowingness, the beingness, the Sat-Chit Ananda, the sense of being, the I amness, are all the modulations, the knowingness of pure awareness. The absolute, which is not separate from its own knowingness, but is prior to, not in the sense of time, but simply the order of being. Before anything could be known, you must be. Before you could even have a thought about yourself, you would have to exist. This pure existence is the absolute, right? Which does not require it even knowing itself in order to be. But its nature is that it does know itself, and therefore it experiences its own being. But it always experiences its own being. It's always secondary. It's the firstborn of what is. The pure what is doesn't even know itself. Ponder that. Merc, this at least seemed to be being rendered like a video game. Only the current frame truly exists. Yes, everything is the spontaneous appearing in this moment. There's no past and there is no future. Those are memories and anticipation, and they are concepts. There was something that happened before. There's nothing happening now. Oops. There's nothing happening. As Buddha said, nothing exists at all, and these are nothing but words. The picture on the screen is being constantly generated. If the computer screen that you're watching this on, 60 times a second, that screen is being refreshed. Those little dots are going on and off 60 times a second to give the illusion of a picture. But the story, right, the conversation is happening over time, right? The words are flowing over time. And when you really see it, you see it in its timelessness. Nothing at any moment exists. But when you put it in like a wave doesn't exist, right? You can't time slice a wave and get a wave. In the absolute now, nothing is. The absolute now is also the eternal. It is the timeless space in which all happens. And so the only thing happening is right here and right now. Now, if you see that, it's not you have to throw your past out, but you realize that the past isn't really an influence. It's not the past that's creating this moment. It's you. And you're not a slave to your past or a slave to your anticipations of the future. It's all being generated right now. You see that? Boy, you're free of time. And of course, at that point, what really matters is knowing yourself. Knowing that which is real, that is generating these images spontaneously in real time. Beyond even fast, beyond 60 frames a second. It's way beyond that. Ida Catherine Angel. You are the real deal, GP. Truth oozing from your brilliant self. Why we are all here, by the way. Thank you, Ida. Oh, thank you. Mindful Zero. Hey, G, can't make satsang tonight. I've been so absent recently. We'll be here next week. Constantly observing thoughts, watching my triggers, and being as present as I can be. Well, that's it. Then you're in, when you are doing that, when you are really observing, without judging, without an agenda, without even trying to change your thinking from one thing to another, watching the triggers, right, without judging, without an agenda, you're being present. That's satsang. That is satsang. Right? It's not just sitting here listening to me talk or any teacher talk. You're living the satsang. That is the real deal. You are communing with the truth, and that truth is yourself as the enlightened witness, the aware one. The deeper that goes, you'll begin to see that the identity we've constructed, right, is flimsy, and it begins to dissolve. And little by little, you'll no longer be thinking of yourself as somebody trying to become awakened, but you'll think of yourself as Buddha, the awakened one. Ida, unspeakable appreciation, 100% resonance, unbindable self. Love from the north of Norway. Wow, you're way up there. Wonderful. Thank you, Ida. Oh, beautiful words. Very touched. Mary Lawler, hello from Toronto, Canada. Hello to you. So glad I found you. Remind me a lot of Ram Dass. Well, cut from the same cloth. Cut from the same, speaking from the same place. Yes. We discovered the same thing. You know, nobody invented this, right? It's like you find the treasure. Oh, look, it's the same treasure. We're all talking about the same thing. There's Bob in Serbia. I call her Bob because she's a student of mine, and I can't really say her name. And we nicknamed her Bob, so it kind of stuck. She said she can't make it. Ido, hi Ido. Good evening, G. Good evening to you. Gee, thank you, G. No questions about the self because you're already clearing every doubt through every question here. Wonderful. I do have to tell you, as a teacher, I'm always wondering, how much to say and how much not to say. It's one thing to just kind of put out there, everything as I know it. It's another thing to present it in such a way that it can be grasped by who is ever listening to me. So whenever I go to those places that are beyond what the world teaches, like it's all you, nothing works, especially when I'm talking about medicine and science and things like that. Nothing works except that you believe in it, and all the faith put in by people. I do have to say I get a little reluctant. I don't want to teach in such a way that's so absolute that it becomes unapproachable for a lot of people. And there's a lot of non-dual teachers. They're good, but that's what they do. They just kind of expect you to come to them, and if not, you go somewhere else. And yeah, that's fine, I suppose. But it's not my style. I want you to get it, and I'll do whatever I need to do in order for you to get it. So I'm glad. Penny, hi, Sifu, and everyone. Sorry I'm late, dear Irette group. Thank you so much for your love and accepting me for who I am. Thank you. Yes, all of our fellow students. She's been in several of my classes, and all the fellow students loved her so much. It was her birthday yesterday, so we all chipped in and sent her a nice big bunch of flowers, and so it was it was just delightful, beautiful. The beauty of the way, GP. Thank you for going there. You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm glad. I do jump around. Hello, Alessandra. So good to see you. Thanks, GP, for answering the link between awareness and attention so beautifully. Truly something I can ponder upon. Much love. Yes. Ultimately, the point is to bring the attention away from everything on which it is focused. Turn it towards yourself. But ultimately, you cannot see yourself. The eye cannot turn around and see itself, right? But in the process of doing that, even though attention cannot see you because it's always reporting to you, right? The act of doing it completely removes identification with what is seen. And then the only thing left is to drop even the attention, to notice what attention is reporting to, and that you can't see it because you are it. Oh my God, I am that. That is what I am. Of course I can't see it. I'm it. What do you look like from a distance of 0? I don't know. I have no idea what I am, who I am. That I am. The finger can't touch itself. The eye can't see itself. The knife can't cut itself. Right? It simply can't, because it's one. The self does not know itself as an object. It cannot look upon it itself. It is, and so all the sense of form, all of which is externally perceived, falls away. And you recognize yourself as the formless pure awareness, because the awareness is undeniable. I can't see it, I can't touch it, I can't know it, I can't confine it, I can't put it into any kind of shape or form. It's me. I am that. Ida says, you can't teach in that way because you're too obvious at all times. Thank you. Yes, it has to be taught with gently, with compassion, and with, as Buddha put it, skillful means. It's up to the teacher to meet the student, not the other way around. Memento mori. Is everything according to God's will in this universe? Is there actually free will, or is it all happening? The idea of free will rests on the idea that you are a separate self. And that all starts with the original belief, I am the body. The pure I am, that is just undifferentiated consciousness, just the pure experience of being, identifies itself with the form. I am now this body. When I become this body, everything else becomes a body. I become a self, they become a self, there's selves everywhere. And then God becomes another self. Now, because the identification with the body, now you identify with the emotions, with beliefs, with gender, with form, with race, with all of these things, right? The conditioning happens, parts of you are allowed to be expressed, parts of you aren't allowed to be expressed. All of this happening from the I am the body belief. And so all of the parts of you that are all this unified, undifferentiated consciousness, which is what we see as the universe, is all you, becomes divided into there's this and that, and there's him and me, and there's he and she, and there's me and other. And God becomes kind of this idealized state. As Joseph Campbell put it, God is just the ultimate name for the self. It is yourself. It is yourself in its wholeness. But we have interpreted that God, which is the reality of you, as if it was another being, and therefore established it as a relationship now, because there's another. Right? It's the other. And in that sense, I become this person, and that person now starts taking ownership of the things that are just happening. Life is just happening, right? Thoughts just happen, emotions just happen. Stuff happens, a reaction happens, it's just happening. From the point of view of undifferentiated consciousness, it's like nothing's happening at all. There's stuff, it's just going on. Nobody's doing anything. But from the point of view of a separate self, I am this body, there's a sense arises that I'm doing this. Now, if you really look closely at every choice you have made, in terms of, that we would call free will, follow it back to the moment that choosing thought emerged, and see if you can find yourself actually choosing. Or was it just, there were a couple of things here, and then a choosing thought emerged, it became dominant, and the energy started following it, and before you know it, stuff was happening. But see if you can find you there actually doing the choosing, or was the choosing yet another spontaneous arising, a spontaneous happening? Look for yourself. Look and see. Again, I'm not... I can say, yes, there is, or no, there isn't, which is meaningless. It's just more head knowledge, just another, guy on YouTube spouting off about stuff, and God knows there's enough of those. I invite you to look, trace it back. What happened at that moment? And you'll find that out of nowhere, out of just kind of this emptiness, a spontaneous choosing thought emerged. There was nobody there choosing. There's a feeling of having made a choice because there's an energy in the body that's moving now in a certain way, and there's emotions that get associated with it, and hopes, right? Oh, this is going to be great, right? Oh, I don't want to do this, right? There are all sorts of reactions to that choosing thought emerging. But look carefully. Can you find the chooser? The mind just insists there must be, and so doesn't even bother looking. Because when you look, you find, oh my God, there's no chooser. There's nobody there. It just happened. So it really wasn't a choice at all. It was simply life arcing off in this direction. And then my sense of being someone choosing that was actually projected on it, right? The choosing thought arose, started getting some momentum, other thoughts collected, and somewhere down the line came the thought, I chose that. After the choice, quote unquote, had been made, after that choosing thought, that energy, that direction, which actually even starts before it's a thought. There's just an energy to start heading in a particular direction. It then says, this is where we're going. Eventually, I chose that. And if you look, that's actually what's happening. So can you find the chooser? No. So it's not, is there free will or not free will? That's a philosophical thing. Look and see. Obviously, things are happening. From where are they happening? Where is their actual source? And you'll go back to this place where there's just this incredible emptiness, where all thoughts are arising. And then you'll find that emptiness is the real you. Love, 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 love that. Much love to you guys. You all seem so sweet. Thank you, Memento. They all are. I love you all. Come join the iRed group. Penny is referring to the Inner Reconciliation Energy Techniques. It's the EFT course I teach. And of course, I have the Inner Reconciliation course coming up next. David and Aline, following on from Jay, every answer to all forms of questions always point to the truth of our true being, a beautiful, solid, and eternal foundation on which to live and be. Thank you, GP and all. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. I'm glad I'm successful in my chosen career. Terrible to be a teacher, a spiritual teacher, and suck at it, wouldn't it? JD, a follow-up question, if I may. Of course. Does awareness ever want or wish to recognize itself through this body-mind? In a way, who's deciding which body-mind unit gets used in the awakening process? It's not a decision like that. You'll notice that there's a sense of awareness kind of being like a person that has wants and desires and preferences. But really look at pure awareness and you'll see that desires and preferences and wants and desires all arise in the presence of the awareness. So the awareness itself doesn't have any preferences. There's really nothing in awareness to motivate anything. This is a total mystery, and you just have to probe it. But think of it like this. Your eye passes no judgment on what it sees. If the light hits the eye, it gets in. The eye isn't a mitigator. It's not a guard at the door, right? It's not the bouncer, right? It's going to, let you in past the velvet rope. It's just pure receptivity. Now the mind, when an image gets in, now it's being processed by the mind, and there's judgments and agendas and interpretation, all sorts of things that happen, none of which are in the actual picture being presented. The eye is a very good metaphor for pure awareness. Now, imagine that the eye is actually producing the images rather than receiving it, and you have a better metaphor. That the images that are being perceived by awareness are being generated by. They're made of awareness. It's the very substance of it. And now you get to taste the deeper meaning of the entire thing. That all preferences, all apparent choices, all of it is simply the arising. It doesn't wish to experience anything. It's just the nature of it creates experience. I don't desire to breathe, I just do, right? You don't desire to blink. Like, oh God, I really want to blink. I hope I blink. You just blink, right? Notice that everything functions in life really without desire, without a motivator, without choosing. It's just the nature of it. Now, when you are simply the nature of yourself, you are in the pure, absolute, effortless state. You don't do anything. Everything just happens. There's nobody choosing it, nobody denying it, nobody grasping for it, nobody pushing it away. Now, I have to use words like that to point you towards the awareness, and of course, just because of the way we learn to think in the conceptual mechanisms of the mind, we end up conceptualizing awareness as kind of a form, kind of a person, an ephemeral being, and then we try to imagine how is it free from desire, and how could you have desire if I am, the pure awareness, is free of desire? Well, that's the big mystery. It is free of all limitations. And therefore, it is the pure potential for absolutely anything. It is infinite potential. To be infinite means it itself is confined in no form, but it can give rise to any form. And not just a form, right? But the form and the entire universe in which the form appears, because the form has to have a context. There's no such thing as a form without other forms around it. And so the entire thing creates the universe. You and the universe are one being, are just one manifestation, one spontaneous image in the mind of God, or pure awareness. So there's no particular rhyme or reason between the particular body mind that's involved in the awakening process. Remember, the awakening process is in the dream. Nobody awakens. Awareness was never asleep. How can it wake up? So the awakening, the falling asleep in the awakening, the identification with the body, and the transcending of the identification of the body are all appearing to awakening. They're all appearing to the awakened one, which has never ever been asleep. And so the form it takes, who cares? You are the universe. So your form is the universe. No you, no universe. Now, transcend it, go beyond it. Notice that which is aware of even the process of awakening. And that's always there, and it doesn't need to wake up. This is kind of the big surprise, the big punchline at the end of the story. Oh, I've just spent 30 lifetimes as a monk, and I've finally ferried the boat to the yonder shore, and I stand on the yonder shore and I go, well, look at that. It's the same shore. So, well, since my prologue wasn't as long today, we have run to the end of the questions. I have a few more minutes here if somebody wants to get another question in before I call it a day. It's okay. I don't mind the extra 10 minutes to just sit here for a while afterwards and let all of the active energy of engagement kind of drift away and back into stillness. All right then. Well, I will just say thank you to everyone for being here. Thank you for everything. Thank you for your deep love of this, the most important thing to discuss in the human kingdom. It's the most important thing you can put your attention on. So thank you all for being willing to do that. It's this that will save the world. Nothing else. Don't be afraid of the tyrants. Don't be afraid of the don't be afraid of anything. Don't be afraid of the governments, the economics, the politics. Things can get tight. Things can get tense. But don't lose the sense of equanimity. Blessed are the peacemakers. And Christ did know what he was talking about when he said, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. It will not appear as if that is going to be the case. Matter of fact, the ones who appear to be inheriting the earth are anything but meek. They're aggressive, warlike, tyrannical. But I'm taking him at his word, the sage from Nazareth. I'm taking him at his word that it is the meek that will inherit the earth. So, thank you all for being here. Thank you, thank you. Love you all. Namaste.